Well, hello there. This is Chris Dorris. Welcome back to In Theos. And today's class is entitled How to Become a Thought Warrior. My coach, Steve Chandler, has written about, roughly 1,000,000 books. And many of them he uses the warrior concept, like how to be a time warrior and wealth warrior. And I love, as a mental toughness trainer, I really resonate with the whole warrior concept because it has to do with discipline of mind. And I refer to myself as a mental toughness coach. So the warrior image works really well for me. And I thought it would be really useful to integrate that theme into this course, okay? Because so much of my work is predicated, it has to be, it's predicated upon strengthening the way that we think. Right? There are a few mantras, there are a lot of mantras that I rely upon, and a few of the relevant ones for our conversation today are how, as a person thinketh, so shall they become. That's William James, or Buddha. The mind is the forerunner of all things. Even more appropriately, though, I think the best mantra for our conversation, our course today, is your life unfolds according to the way that you think. And one more alternative way of articulating that is the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. So in other words, putting this as simply as possible, what I got going on, what you got going on in your life, every single circumstance that you have going on in your life is the direct result of what you got going on in your mind. So if you have abundance in your life, you have success, you have order, you have health, it's because you're using your mind in an orderly way, in an abundant way. If you have chaos in your life, it is only because you are using your mind in a chaotic way. That can never not be true. And that's beautiful. Because that means we are the creators of our lives, and our lives all originate with our thinking. So our conversation today, our course today, is all about how to become an amazing thinker or a thought warrior. So let's hop in. Big idea number one. This is another one of my favorite mantras. Create the state, don't wait. Waiting is the number one mistake that I experience in my profession as a coach, as a speaker, as a mental toughness trainer. I used to be a licensed therapist. I used to be a social worker. And throughout all of that experience, the number one mistake that I've witnessed people making in the pursuit of having life be on their terms, being, doing, or getting what they want, the number one mistake is, wait for it, it's waiting. It's waiting. Waiting for some set of circumstances. That was a setup. Right? It's kind of mean, but it's sort of funny. Waiting is the number one mistake that people make. Like waiting for, okay, so for example, waiting until there's a certain balance in my bank account, right, in my savings, until I'll feel financially successful. That's a popular one. Waiting till I've achieved a certain level of wealth before I'll feel wealthy. Now you say, well, that makes sense. Yeah, well, you know what? It actually doesn't make sense. Okay, because you'll see in a second when I share with you what I refer to as the freedom formula, which is the one thing. If I could only ever share one, if I was for some reason was only allowed to share one thing with anyone ever in my coaching or in any way, it would be that freedom formula. Okay, so the freedom formula, when you get it, it will have you stop waiting. All right, it will have you creating the state, and then having your internal state, your psychological state, then govern everything, govern your entire life, which will then dictate how your life unfolds. So you could say, well, create what state? You create the state, don't wait. What state? And the answer is whatever state you want. And that's the beauty, is that you right now, sitting there watching this in Theo's course, in this very second, and this is always true, you have access to every single possible human emotion that exists. Right now, you could create that. Nothing needs to be different. Sitting there right now, you could think your way into every single possible emotional state or mood. right? It's those moods that govern how our lives unfold. So we'll get to that. So create the state, don't wait. Now, just to complicate things, because I'm from New Jersey and I like to do things like that. I love to say we're going to make this really simple, but then I'm going to complicate it. It's just for fun. So to complicate it, there's this thing called conditioning. Like if I asked you the question, why do you ever suffer? Or why do you ever struggle? Why wouldn't any of our lives be exactly as we want them to be? Why would any of us settle? Why is it true that 80% over the course of decades, right, of research studies, do people in the Western world, and I'm sure it's true for the world, report that they are not in love with their lives? And it can only be for one reason, and it's called conditioning, meaning we've learned. We have, over the course of time, we have picked up these beliefs that don't serve us, that are limiting, that would have us believe that there would be some legitimate reason for me to settle for less than what I want to have, be, do, or get, right? So we need to be cool with that. As an example, this is a lot easier to do in a live experience, but so what? We're going to do it anyway. All right, I want to ask you a question, okay? I want you to think of a dollar amount. Okay, now listen to the way I phrase this, because that's relevant. Think of a number that corresponds to the amount of money, the most money that you can imagine getting a hold of under any circumstance in a year's time. So seriously, come up with a number, an actual number, dollar amount that corresponds to the most money that you can imagine getting a hold of under any circumstance. You might even just write that number down. Now, I'll ask you some questions. Well, really, maybe just one question. Is it possible for you to double that amount and still imagine it? Can you do that? And chances are strong that you can. Right? And when I do this in public seminars, I just did it this Saturday, room full of people, and you know what always happens? Is people come up with different numbers, different number amounts, numeric amounts, right? But the common thread or denominator throughout every person in that room's answer is that they translated the question. They actually didn't answer my question. So you shouldn't be able to add 1 penny to the number that you came up with. You shouldn't be able to add a penny to it, because the question was, what's the most that you can imagine? So if you can add something to it, you didn't answer the question. You know what you answered, and this is true for 99.9% of people that answer this question. You unconsciously, because of the conditioning of your past and all the stories you have that reside in your mind about money, and there's lots of them, about how scarce it is, how hard it is to get money, how few people ever really accumulate, boatloads of it, and blah, blah, blah. That conditioning had you unconsciously translate the question that I posed, right, which was a question about imagination. You translated it into a question of your own learned interpretations of what's like maybe realistic, or what maybe you could pull off if a lot of things went well, based on all your history or what it is that you do now, which I didn't say anything about, right? And all this is an illustration of the conditioning, the influence of the past that we're not even conscious of. The only true appropriate response to that, the only free-minded response to the question, how much money can you imagine getting a hold of under any circumstance in a year's time, would be all of it. Why wouldn't that be the obvious response? Like all of it, however much there is on Earth. Like put it over there. Why wouldn't that? And it's only because of our conditioning. So let's be cool with the fact that let's be really cool with the fact, okay, that we are living our lives through the thick lenses of the conditioning of our past. Now, let's go to number 3 quickly, because that could sound depressing. And I don't want that. We are designed for growth, okay? Alan Watts said it best as far as I'm concerned. Alan Watts is one of my favorite teachers in history. If you get the chance, listen to he's hilarious and beyond the brilliant. To call him brilliant is an understatement. But he said it best when he said, each of us is an aperture through which the universe observes itself. Only the game that we're playing is to not know that, which is kind of cool, right? So if we translate that, what it also means is the game that we're playing is to know that, right? Is to remember that, is to awaken to that we are the organizing intelligence of the universe. And the ultimate game that we're playing is really to free ourselves from the conditioning of our past so that we can experience reality as it is in all of its infinite beauty, and then just go crush it, whatever it is. Just have, be, do, and get what we want. That's the big game. So that puts all of this conditioning into a really exciting contest, like kind of like a sport. Right? So thank God for the conditioning of our past. Thank God for the fact that we're designed to grow. As humans, we're designed to grow, because then if we were designed to grow and we had no room for growth, it'd be like, what a waste. But the conditioning gives us the opportunity to go exercise the growth that we're designed for. So it just works out very well. All right, now let's talk about really growing. About how do we do the growth? So let's go on to big idea number 4. Now here's the deal, okay? This is the freedom formula. If you can see this pad right here behind me, that's the freedom formula, okay? Abbreviated. You can see it. It's written more on the course outline here, but this is the abbreviation. I wanted to have it here behind me because I want to refer to it right now. This is called the freedom formula because when you get this on the deepest of possible levels and then integrate the practice or discipline that accompanies it, which we'll get to in a couple steps down the road here, you are freeing yourself from the conditioning of the past so that you can experience reality in all of its infinite beauty, so that you can be amazing, so that you don't settle, so that you don't have all the needless suffering. That's the freedom, right? So it's called the freedom formula. Now, I've kind of simplified it here, right? So it's written, I don't remember how I wrote it in the course, but the formula is simple. Here it is. Think, it's so hard to do this. How do weather people do this? God, that takes practice. Think, feel, do, results, okay? Results means out. It's like, what's going on in my world? What's the circumstances of my life? And it all comes back, like we said, like Buddha said, back to, this is sort of thinking, right? It all comes back to my thinking. How I think governs my state, or how I feel. That's what the F, feel, or state of mind. That column means emotional state, or all the moods that you experience. And then the D is action or behavior. It stands for do, what I do. Or what might even be more important, because you think about it. If I'm thinking that something that I want is out of reach, is impossible, then I'm feeling hopeless. What do? Squat. I do nothing, which guarantees the result is that I don't get it because I've done nothing, and I do nothing because I feel hopeless. But the only reason I could ever feel hopeless is because I'm thinking about it that way. It's not because of what people have told me. It's not because of the ratio or number, the small number of people that have ever achieved like what I'm thinking of, say, for example, being a professional golfer and winning the Masters. If that's something that I want, I work with a lot of professional golfers, and that is the case. In fact, it's amazing how many times I ask someone in their first coaching session what it is that you want. Their truth is, I want to win the Masters. But it takes about 20 minutes, maybe 2 sessions, for them to feel comfortable articulating that because of all the conditioning of the past. I would have them think that that's inappropriate to say out loud to somebody. It might sound cocky. I don't want to put myself out there because what are the odds of that? All that kind of thinking, right, governs my I'm not feeling. If I'm thinking all that stuff, I guarantee you know what I'm not feeling. I'm not feeling knowing. I'm not feeling absolute, right? I'm feeling doubtful, at best hopeful. Okay, which is weak compared to knowing. So that's the freedom formula, right? And simply put, you see the pluses and minuses. Okay, the better I think, I'll take you through this very quickly. I'm intentionally spending more time on this than anything else today, because, like I said, this is the one. If I was only allowed to spend time on one thing ever in my life with anyone, this is it. Okay, so the better my thoughts are, or we'll see, the higher the quality of my thinking, which is the same thing as saying the more masterfully I'm interpreting reality in this moment. It's all the same way of saying it. The better I'm thinking, the higher the quality of my interpretation of my situation or reality in the moment, then the better my state is. Right? The higher grade my mood is, the higher the quality of my thinking, the higher the quality of my state. The higher the quality. This is scientifically proven when they measure brain chemicals, like the smart chemicals, the good chemicals, like oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine. These are the neurotransmitters that are the on switches for all intelligence centers of the brain, and the turning the switch on is by thinking masterfully. It's as hard as that gets, right? So the better I feel, then, Chris, the better the action, the higher the quality and quantity of action that I take, maximizing the results of me having, being, or doing, or getting what I want. That's simple. Flip side, equally simple in the other way. The lower grade my thoughts are, the weaker the states that I'm creating with my mind, releasing chemicals that would have me struggle, like as if I'm like going under anesthesia, literally, which would, of course, compromise the quality and quantity of my actions, which then govern a different quality of results, which is, of course, maximizing the likelihood of me not getting what I want. So it's all that simple. Don't be fooled by the simplicity. Be psyched about how profound it is. That all comes back to your thinking, because the best news of all of this is that you control your thinking. You have absolute control of your thinking, which is why we're here today, is to practice becoming really masterful. Something I didn't say in the beginning that I want to say right now is that I find it bizarre that I have gone through higher education. I have an advanced degree in psychology, and yet I never had a course in kindergarten, in grade school, in high school, in college, or in grad school on this, on how to really become an amazing thinker. Like, no teacher ever said to me, okay, real quickly, hey, heads up, this is kind of important. Your whole life is going to unfold according to the way that you think. So let's like really put some effort into having that be amazing. Like let's have a whole course on that, why don't we? On how to intentionally strengthen the way that you use your brain so that your thinking is amazing, which will make everything, including all of your other courses, easier. Just saying. So that's what we're here for today, which is sweet as far as I'm concerned. Okay, let's go on. Now, there's the theory, okay, in the most concise nutshell I could ever put it in. All right, I do courses on this. All right, I do like weekend-long courses on this, okay? So that is as nutshell as it gets. But don't be discouraged by that, because it's, you're not like missing out. That's as simple as the practice is. Now let's get into the practice, okay? So that's big idea number 5 is the discipline. I've used the word practice. So what good would a theory be without being accompanied by something to do, like a practice? The reason that big idea number 5 is just called discipline is because that's what it is. This is a discipline. I like to say that the most mentally tough or conscious, those are synonymous, people in the world choose to exist in a perpetual state of self-inquiry, meaning they're always asking questions like, how am I thinking now? How's my mood? How's my state? How am I using my mind? Perpetually, right? That's the discipline. If I want to get in great physical condition, I'm not going to go to the gym once, have this awesome workout, and walk out going, done. Sweet. I'm in good shape. Next project. I know that isn't how it works, okay? I'm going to need to repeat that behavior. Right? I'm going to need to repeat that behavior over and over as long as I continue to be invested in becoming stronger. It's the same thing here. If I want to strengthen my life, then I want to strengthen my mind. More specifically, I want to engage. I want to be enthusiastically. I love that word so much. I've been in love with that word long before I established a relationship with Entheos, and I'm so glad that they call themselves that because it's such a perfect word, like God within, enthusiasm. It's one of the highest grade states that I could possibly be in. It has me be amazing. So I want to be super enthused. I want to be jacked up about the fact that this is a discipline, because the practicing of the discipline by itself every day has the act itself be rewarding. It becomes very, very self-reinforcing, and it's a discipline. Okay, so let's talk about what the discipline is. Okay, it's a 3-step deal. Catch, own, and replace. So we're going to break those down one by one. The first step is I want to really become acutely aware of my emotional states throughout the day. Right? I want to be in those inquiries, like, okay, so how am I feeling right now? It's a great question to get the habit of asking yourself throughout the day. How am I feeling? Knowing that the answer is only because of how I'm thinking, that those go together, right? So how am I thinking right now? And that's what I want to catch, is when I'm what I refer to as below the O line. You see that little diagram right here? That's the range of interpretation. The whole thing looks like a big capital letter I, so we'll just call that the range of possible interpretation. See, as long as you're awake, you're interpreting your reality in one of 3 ways. Either in a low grade way, which is below that neutral line, which I call the O line, right? In other words, in a way that would have you feel uncool, that would have you feel unpleasant, anything, even remotely unpleasant. Okay, that's the first option. The second way to interpret your reality would be neutrally, by making an observation, like saying, today is Wednesday. That's an observation. My chair here is brown. It's an observation. When I go, this chair is amazing, that's an interpretation. Okay, it's brown and it's made of leather. There happen to be no clouds in the sky today. Observation. Interpretation, this is a gorgeous day, which of course is the third way of interpreting reality, which is in a way that I have you feel inspired or enthused or anything pleasant, right? So either low grade interpretations, neutral, or isness, just is, right? Or in a high grade way. What we're catching here in the first step of the practice of becoming a thought warrior is the catch, own, and replace. The first step is catching yourself when you've gone below the O line. In other words, when you're thinking poorly about your reality in the moment. You're just thinking poorly in the moment. All right. Byron Katie likes to say that whenever you are ever feeling anything remotely unpleasant is only because of one thing and one thing only, and it's that in that moment you're believing a lie, which means you've got a low-grade interpretation of reality. So you're going to catch yourself, get into the habit of catching yourself below the O line. Okay, big idea number 7 is step number 2 in the discipline or the practice of catch, own, and replace, and it's own. Take ownership. Now, I strongly encourage you to write this down. This is as liberating a phrase as there can be when we're talking about taking control of the way that you experience reality and create excellence, therefore, as a result in your life. The ownership phrase, let's use the example of traffic to make this more practical and accessible. Okay, so let's say I'm out in traffic and I'm getting whiny about it and I'm getting irritated. All right, so I catch myself. I'm like, oh wow, I'm really irritated right now. It's traffic. Then the next step is to take ownership, which is this. This is the ownership phrase. I'm not feeling this way because of what's going on. I'm feeling this way because of how I'm thinking about it or how I'm interpreting it right now. That's taking absolute, full, and complete enthusiastic ownership of my state. That's me being the opposite of a victim of circumstance. This is me being a creator of my life. This is so powerful. I'm saying I'm not feeling irritated because of the traffic. Traffic could never make me, nothing could ever make me feel irritated. Nothing, except my low-grade interpretation of it. So I'm not feeling irritated because of the traffic. I'm not feeling anxious because I might miss a meeting because of the traffic. I'm only feeling irritated and anxious because I'm thinking poorly about that fact, about all that data. All right? So that's ownership. I'm not feeling this way because of what's going on. I'm feeling this way because of how I'm choosing to think about it in the moment, whether I'm doing it on purpose or not. So now that alone has you be free, because that's you practicing, right? Taking complete ownership of your states. That's having you never be a victim of circumstance. That's you rehearsing, saying, I will never, ever let my states be vulnerable to outside circumstances again. That's what a thought warrior does. Okay, so now the third and final step in the discipline or the practice is, of course, replace. Or you could say upgrade, but whatever, just say replace. I'm going to replace. Obviously, it's an upgrade. All right, I'm replacing what? Well, I'm replacing my thought. I'm replacing my interpretation, which of course is going to have the result of me actually replacing or upgrading my state. This is how I upgrade my states. I upgrade the way I'm thinking about the circumstance. Okay, so there are we could just stop right here. And I'd say, okay, we're going to wrap it up here. Go practice replacing your thoughts. Because I don't need to give you, no one would ever need to give you any suggestions on how to replace your thoughts. A simple way of saying it is just think better about it. But the reason that I do and that I'm going to is because our conditioning, it's amazing how much pushback I get from people when I'm doing seminars. They actually think that I'm trying to coach you into like looking at life through rose-colored glasses. Like, how can I possibly not complain about traffic? It's like our conditioning is so thick and so strong that it would have me actually argue for the low-grade interpretations at times. How am I not? What am I supposed to be am I supposed to be happy about traffic? Well, it's an option. That's literally, I don't care what, it's up to you. Like, all I know is that the better I feel, the better I am. So it's your call. I mean, if I want to choose to be irritated, the beauty is you're free to do that. The question is, just ask yourself what value comes of that. Do you get more out of, like, are you amazing when you're frustrated? Or are you amazing when you're enthused? Are you more amazing when you're enthused? Let's just be like divinely selfish and say, well, what works for me? Like, what increases the likelihood of me having, being, doing, or getting what I want? And I've only learned to complain about things. I've only learned to complain ever about anything, not just traffic. Complaining is a low-grade practice that I've picked up along the way. It's conditioned, right? Good news, I can reprogram, recondition. So let's go on to big idea number 9, which is the first suggestion that I have for replacing your thoughts, okay? And I'm always mentioning mantras in my courses here in Theos. Because they're amazing tools, okay? They're these short, concise phrases that like contain voluminous, like encyclopedic volumes of brilliance and useful, skillful information, right? And all I got to do is say this little phrase, and it reminds me of all of that, right? So one mantra is, I got this from Wayne Dyer, as a matter of fact, I can choose peace rather than this. So I'm sitting in my car and I'm complaining about traffic. And I catch it, right? And I own it by saying, not feeling this way because of the traffic. I'm feeling this way because of my low-grade interpretations of it right now. Okay, let's upgrade that. Let's use a mantra. I can choose peace rather than this. And even just saying the word peace just had that become my new option. I can choose peace rather than this. Another is, ain't bad, just is. Now, that's like the lowest grade interpretation that I want. I mentioned isness, the O line there. Observation line. Okay, traffic, being in traffic ain't bad. It just is. It's like, how could traffic be bad? It's just a bunch of people in cars in the same spot going places. That's like the reality of it. If you want to talk about what's really happening, that's the deal. Right? So it ain't bad, just is. And that's true for everything. The ain't bad, just is mantra is like a default mantra that you can use always to replace any complaint ever. And then and that's the worst, right? Because that's just observation. Ain't bad, just is traffic. Ain't bad, just is cold and rainy. It ain't bad, just is. Right? And now when I go there, when I'm not like creating low grade states, anxiety, frustration, disappointment, shame, guilt, and all those toxic, paralyzing states, now I have accessibility to my creative solution focused thinking. So if there's some problem that could result as a result of the traffic, I am now, as a result of upgrading my interpretation of it, free to even entertain that. Okay, another mantra is, everything is unfolding exactly as it should. That actually comes from before I got into coaching, I studied astrophysics, and I took a few real golden nuggets of value away from them. And one is that's actually just a fact. Like, that's not some opinion. Like, everything's unfolding as it should. That's objective fact. If 15 billion years, this universe, if you study the physics of it, if you really get into the science of it, which I did, you cannot argue. No one. You cannot find an intelligent scientist who knows anything about the history of the universe that could support an argument that it's not flawless. It is. There's no mess ups. In the evolution for the last 15 billion years, this whole deal that we exist in, we call universe, has been unfolding with flawless choreography. True story. It's not until humans come along, which is like totally like relative to the history of time. It's like 14 seconds ago, and we go, problems. And the universe is like, oh, all right, yeah, sure, of course there is. My bad. All right, human, go fix it. So everything is unfolding exactly as it should, is another good mantra. But now let's go to the last big idea, okay? And I want to leave with this, which is that one of the enthusiasm and gratitude are very close cousins, okay? Gratitude is one of the highest states that we could choose again being an operative word, to create, right? So I'm sitting in my car. Gratitude always has me be amazing, always. So I'm sitting in my car and I catch myself feeling irritated by the traffic, right? And I own it by saying, well, I'm not irritated because of traffic. I'm irritated because of my thinking about it. And then I want to replace it. Let's use gratitude. Let's use the gratitude replacement option, okay? I am so thankful for the fact that I have this amazing car, that I have a car, that I live a life that involves me having a car, that makes me going to the places I want to go, whether to have fun or to experience people who I love, or to make money, or for whatever, to go get a sandwich, for anything. My God, how much easier is it that my life that I have this thing? I have a car. Or even if I'm using public transportation and I'm complaining about traffic, I'm so thankful that transportation exists to have it be so much easier for me to get to places. There is never not an opportunity for you to be infinitely grateful in your life. The whole thing is a miracle. That's another course. The incomprehensibly improbable you. Look for that one. You are a miracle. Experiencing miracles. Everything is. Einstein said it. There's only two ways to look at life. One is as if nothing's a miracle. The other is as if everything is. Everything is, as a scientist speaking. So gratitude is always available to you. I'm thankful for the people that went into making this car that I have. All the human beings that went into that toiled to have me have this thing that's making my life so easy. The music that I get to listen to, right? The people who went into creating these amazing roads. And then I could go into gratitude for anything else. But that's now I want to suggest that you Google this, okay? This is a link to a YouTube video that I always use in my presentations. And I've seen it, I have to have seen this 100 times. And I promise you I'm not exaggerating. I promise you this is a true statement. But I always get teared up, choked up, because it's beautiful. It is so beautiful. And it's on gratitude. So if you just Google Gratitude HD, just Gratitude HD, what will come up is a video that was created by Louis Schwartzberg. And it's narrated by a Benedictine monk whose name is Brother David Steindl-Rast, who is a fascinating, and look him up because he's fascinating human. And his voice is so perfect for this video. So it's like a 5 or 6 minute video. And I really, really want to encourage you to watch that on gratitude. Okay. So to summarize, how to become a thought warrior. Well, why would I become a thought warrior? Well, because the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. How my life unfolds is in accordance to the way that I think, right? My thinking governs how my life unfolds. So I want to become amazing at thinking. Now, the best news of all of this is that the better I think, the better I feel. We could stop there. We could just stop there and have that be perfect, right? I have access to joy always. If I practice enough, and this was Buddha's mission, I can be free of suffering. Okay, that sounds pretty good to me. We can stop. It doesn't stop there, though. That's the thing. It just gets better, okay? Because then the better I feel, the better I am at everything. the more likely I am to have my life be exactly as I want it. That's my incentive to become a thought warrior. So thanks for participating in this. I hope you find tremendous value, and I'll see you in another Entheos course soon.